Ladies and gentlemen, when you begin to observe the nature of your mind, it becomes clear that the majority of thoughts moving through your awareness are not new. They are repetitions, echoes of yesterday, rehearsals of familiar feelings. Science tells us that most of what we think today, we thought yesterday and the day before that. This constant recycling of old thoughts is what keeps us trapped in cycles of behavior and emotion that no longer serve us. If yesterday's thoughts were filled with worry, fear, or doubt, and you think them again today, then you are already scripting your tomorrow to look the same. The mind left untrained is like a wheel stuck in a groove. It turns in the same direction again and again, not because it must, but because it knows no other path. To truly understand the impact of thoughts is to realize that they are not harmless. Every thought carries energy. Each one is a signal sent out into the world, and each one shapes the way we perceive our reality. When you wake in the morning and instantly remember your problems, your mistakes, your failures, you are not just thinking, you are creating. Your body reacts as if those situations are happening all over again. Stress hormones are released, your heart rate shifts, your nervous system responds. The thought alone has the power to summon the body's reaction, blurring the line between memory and reality. This is why so many people feel as if they are reliving the past, because in truth, their bodies are. But what happens if you interrupt this pattern? What happens if you decide, even for a single moment, not to replay the same story? A small crack opens in the wall of repetition. A space of freedom emerges. This is the beginning of transformation. The recognition that you are not the thought, you are the one aware of the thought. Once you understand this, you stop being a prisoner to the endless stream of mental chatter. You realize that thoughts are tools, and like any tool, they can build or they can destroy. Most people unconsciously choose the familiar, even when it is painful, because the known feels safe. But safety in this sense is only the safety of limitation. The known keeps you walking in circles, never stepping beyond the invisible boundary drawn by your past. To reprogram the mind is to dare to step into the unknown, to allow a thought that is new, empowering, and expansive to replace the one that is old and heavy. It is not an easy task because the body resists. The body has memorized the feelings of stress, of fear, of worry, and it longs to return to what is familiar. Yet with persistence, with awareness, with intention, the cycle can be broken. Your thoughts are not fixed. They are habits of the mind, and habits can be changed. With each conscious decision to think differently, you begin to carve a new path. With each repetition of this choice, the new path grows clearer, easier, more natural. Soon, the energy once invested in old, negative thoughts is redirected into creating possibilities that were always there, waiting for your attention. To change your life, you must first change your thoughts, because thought is the seed of reality. When you plant seeds of fear, you harvest limitation. When you plant seeds of possibility, you harvest transformation. Awareness is the first spark that breaks the cycle of unconscious living. Most people move through life without realizing that their thoughts are guiding them, shaping them, and silently controlling their choices. They react instead of act, repeat instead of renew. When a negative thought arises, they follow it, feed it, and soon they are living inside it, as if it were the truth. Yet, the moment awareness enters, something subtle but profound happens. The thought is no longer invisible. It is seen, and once it is seen, it loses some of its power. Awareness does not fight with the thought, nor does it try to erase it. Instead, it simply observes. This observation creates a pause, and in that pause a new possibility appears. You realize, I am not this thought, I am the one watching it. That shift is small in appearance but infinite in impact. The thought that once seemed like a master now reveals itself as only a guest passing through your mind. When you can see it clearly, you gain the choice to let it stay or to let it go. Imagine standing at the edge of a river. Countless leaves float past, carried by the current. Each leaf is like a thought, some bright, some heavy, some sharp, some soft. Without awareness, you are swept into the river, carried away by whichever leaf drifts closest to you. With awareness, you stand on the shore. You see the leaves, you notice their shapes, but you are not pulled away. You realize that the river flows regardless of your participation, and suddenly you are free. When you practice awareness, you begin to notice the patterns of your thinking. You see that certain thoughts repeat often, especially the negative ones. They wear grooves in the mind like water carving stone. But just as water shapes stone over time, so too can awareness reshape the mind. Each time you catch a thought, before it drags you into its story, you weaken its grip. Each time you pause and breathe instead of react, you strengthen your ability to choose. Awareness is not only about the thought itself, but also about the feelings that follow. A thought of fear brings a tightening in the chest. A thought of anger creates heat in the body. A thought of doubt pulls energy downward. By becoming aware of these sensations, you notice how deeply the mind and body are connected. You begin to see that by observing the thought, you are also calming the body. This is why awareness has the power to transform. It interrupts the chain before it grows strong enough to control you. True awareness requires patience. At first, the mind will slip away many times. You will find yourself lost in stories before you even notice. But with practice, the noticing itself becomes quicker. Soon, instead of being consumed by negativity, you catch it as it arises, and eventually you notice it before it even forms fully. This is mastery, not the absence of thoughts, but the presence of awareness so steady that thoughts cannot rule you. It is through awareness that the door to transformation opens. Without it, change is impossible, because you cannot change what you cannot see. With it, every thought becomes an opportunity, every moment a chance to choose differently. Awareness is the silent strength that allows you to step out of the old and into the new. It is the light that reveals the path beyond repetition. Most of the time, people allow the outside world to dictate the rhythm of their thoughts. A message on a phone, a glance from another person, a memory triggered by a sound or smell, immediately the mind reacts, pulled outward by endless stimulation. In this state, life becomes a constant reaction, a cycle where the environment shapes the inner state, instead of the inner state shaping the environment. This is why many feel stuck, because they are waiting for something outside of them to change before they allow themselves to think or feel differently. Shifting attention from the outer world to the inner world is the practice of reclaiming your power. It is the decision to no longer be at the mercy of external circumstances, but instead to turn inward and connect with the quiet place from which true change begins. When you close your eyes and detach from the distractions of the senses, you begin to see that the inner world is vast, boundless, and full of possibility. Here, you are not limited by what has already happened. You are free to imagine, to create, to rehearse the reality you want to step into. When you direct your focus inward, you realize that imagination is not just fantasy. It is a tool of transformation. Every great achievement in human history was first born in the unseen world of thought. A new invention, a work of art, a vision for change, all appeared in the mind before they took form in reality. By choosing to rehearse the future within yourself, you are training your brain and body to recognize it as possible, even inevitable. You are no longer a recorder of past events. You are a creator of new ones. In this inner space, you can begin to visualize yourself in ways that are different from your current life. See yourself walking with confidence, speaking with clarity, living with joy, free of the weight that once held you down. Do not just think these images, feel them. Let your heart respond as though they are already real. When the inner world is filled with elevated emotions, the body does not know the difference between what is imagined and what is experienced. It begins to change, cell by cell, in alignment with the vision you are cultivating. Turning inward also means taking responsibility. No one else can choose your inner state for you. You may not control every event in the outer world, but you can control the quality of your inner world. And when you consistently choose to focus on the inner, you find that the outer begins to shift as well. The circumstances of life reflect the state of your mind and heart. When the inner is coherent, calm, and directed, the outer slowly begins to mirror that order. This practice is not about escape. It is not about denying the challenges of the external world. It is about learning to meet them from a place of strength instead of weakness, from intention instead of reaction. Each time you turn inward, you strengthen your ability to remain steady no matter what the outer world brings. And in this steadiness lies true freedom, because your peace is no longer for sale, your joy no longer dependent, your vision no longer fragile. To shift attention from the outer world to the inner world is to step into the role of creator. It is to acknowledge that the world outside may influence you, but it does not have to define you. The moment you choose the inner over the outer, you begin to write a new story for yourself, one that is no longer tied to what has been, but open to what can be. When you think of a future you desire, it is not enough to simply create a picture in the mind. The image alone remains empty if it is not infused with feeling. The body must experience the emotions of that vision as if it were happening now. This is the secret to transformation. To teach the body a new emotional state before the external world gives you a reason to feel it. When you close your eyes and imagine a life of freedom, of abundance, of health, and then summon gratitude as though it were already yours, your body does not know the difference. It begins to live in that future before it has even arrived. Most people make the mistake of waiting. They wait for the success before feeling confident, for the relationship before feeling love, for the healing before feeling gratitude. But in waiting, they remain chained to the past, because their emotions are anchored in the absence of what they desire. To change the future, you must feel it first. The feeling becomes the signal, and the signal draws back experiences that match it. When you practice this, you are no longer rehearsing pain or fear. Instead, you are rehearsing joy, courage, and expansion. You begin to cultivate emotions that elevate the heart. Gratitude floods the body with chemistry that heals and restores. Love creates coherence between the heart and brain. Joy raises your vibration, making you more magnetic to opportunities and possibilities. These states are not luxuries, they are the building blocks of a new reality. It may seem strange at first to generate emotions without an external trigger. The mind will argue, but this is not real yet. How can I feel happy for something that hasn't happened? Yet this is exactly the point. By choosing to feel it first, you are no longer enslaved by the external. You are declaring to the universe that your inner world is sovereign, that you do not need permission from circumstances to feel alive. This declaration is powerful. It signals that you are ready to step into creation instead of reaction. As you repeat this process, your nervous system begins to change. Neural pathways are rewired, stress responses are reduced, and the body starts to trust this new state as natural. Over time, the old emotions of lack, doubt, and fear lose their grip. The body no longer expects them because it has learned to expect gratitude, love, and joy instead. This is how the future is installed in the present moment, To feel the future now is to live in alignment with what you desire before it arrives. You become the living example of your vision. The energy you carry influences not only your own life, but also the lives of those around you. People sense it. They are drawn to it, even if they cannot explain why. You radiate the state of being that once only existed in your imagination. And so the practice becomes simple, though not always easy. Every day, choose to feel. Choose to step into gratitude, into love, into joy, not because life has given you a reason, but because you have chosen to give life a reason. In that choice lies your power, and in that power lies your freedom. Repetition is the quiet architect of transformation. Every time a thought is repeated, it strengthens its pathway in the brain. Just like a path in the forest becomes clearer the more it is walked. A thought becomes easier and more automatic the more it is rehearsed. This is why negative patterns can feel so difficult to break, because they have been walked for years, even decades, until the mind and body know them so well that they operate without effort. The cycle continues not because it is unchangeable, but because it has been reinforced by constant repetition. To reprogram the mind, the same principle must be used, but in the opposite direction. By consciously repeating new thoughts, new images, and new emotions, you begin to carve fresh pathways. At first, they may feel unnatural, even false. The mind will whisper, "This is not who you are, this is not real," but persistence is stronger than doubt. Each time you choose the new thought over the old one, you lay another stone on the path. With enough time, the new way becomes more familiar than the old. This is not a quick process. The body, conditioned by years of repetition, will resist. It has memorized the emotions of stress, fear, anger, or sadness, and it longs to return to what it knows. But repetition works like water shaping rock. It may be slow, but it is relentless. With consistency, the body eventually learns to accept the new emotional state as its natural resting place. Gratitude, once a fleeting feeling, becomes the foundation. Peace, once fragile, becomes steady. Visualization plays a key role in this process. When you see a future in your mind and repeat that vision day after day, the brain begins to wire as though the event has already happened. The repeated rehearsal strengthens connections until the brain no longer distinguishes between what is imagined and what is lived. The more often you return to the vision, the more deeply it becomes installed. In time, the body follows. It feels what the mind has rehearsed, and the new state becomes embodied reality. This is why discipline matters. The old self will try to pull you back into comfort, into familiarity. The temptation will be strong to think the way you have always thought. But discipline is the choice to return again and again to the new path, even when it feels tiring, even when it feels unconvincing. Each return adds strength, and every act of persistence builds momentum. Eventually, what once required effort becomes effortless. Through repetition, the brain ceases to be a record of the past and becomes a map of the future. The old grooves of fear and limitation fade, replaced by new grooves of possibility and strength. The body, once addicted to stress, begins to crave peace, and the mind, once trapped in doubt, begins to expect success. This is how transformation is made tangible, not through sudden change, but through the steady layering of choice upon choice, thought upon thought, until the new becomes natural. In this way, repetition becomes the bridge from intention to embodiment. It carries the vision of the future into the reality of the present. And it proves that no pattern is permanent, no limitation unbreakable. Whatever has been rehearsed can be rewritten, and whatever is repeated with enough heart and consistency will one day become who you are. There comes a moment when you must decide whether you will remain a prisoner of your old story or step into the role of creator. For as long as you identify with the past, you will continue to live by it. You will call yourself by the names given to you by experience: failure, victim, unlucky, unworthy. And each time you repeat these names in your mind, you reinforce the prison walls. Life becomes a loop, not because it must be, but because you have not yet chosen otherwise. To become the creator is to see that your identity is not fixed. Who you believe yourself to be is only a collection of thoughts, emotions, and behaviors that have been repeated until they feel solid. But they are not solid. They are patterns, and patterns can be changed. The moment you decide to no longer feed the old story, you take the first step into freedom. This choice is not always comfortable. The familiar has a strange attraction, even when it causes suffering. But true growth asks you to let go of what is known and to embrace the uncertainty of becoming someone new. Creation begins with vision. You ask yourself, who do I want to be if I am not my past? Close your eyes, and you begin to see a version of yourself that is lighter, stronger, more expansive. Perhaps this version walks with confidence, speaks with clarity, and meets challenges with calmness. Perhaps this version lives with love, expresses creativity, and radiates gratitude. Whatever you see, hold it close, because this is the seed of a new identity. But vision alone is not enough. The vision must be matched with feeling. You must allow yourself to experience the emotions of this new self before the evidence appears in the outer world. If you wait for life to give you the sign before you feel it, you are still chained to the past. Instead, you decide, I will feel it now. This is the act of creation. When your thoughts and feelings align with the new vision, you are no longer waiting for reality to change. You are changing reality from within. As this practice deepens, the old self begins to fade. The negative thoughts that once defined you lose their strength. The emotions that once controlled you weaken. You stop reacting like the victim of life and begin responding like the architect of it. Slowly, you weave a new personality, and from this new personality, a new personal reality emerges. The external begins to shift to match the internal. People treat you differently. Opportunities arise. Synchronicities appear. Life begins to mirror the state of being you have chosen. To become the creator is not about control. It is not about forcing life into your design. It is about aligning yourself with the energy of possibility and allowing life to respond. It is about stepping beyond the old patterns and into the unknown, trusting that the unknown holds more for you than the familiar ever could. When you no longer live as the victim of your past, you are free to live as the master of your future. This freedom is not given, it is chosen, and every moment you choose it, you reinforce your power. To create yourself anew each day, to align your thoughts with your emotions, to walk as the person you dream of becoming, that is the path of transformation. And on that path, you will discover that you are not limited by what has been, but only by what you are unwilling to imagine.